Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Does your income make you feel financially secure? And if not, what income would it take for you to feel financially secure? Leave your answer in a comment down below because I'm really curious as to what these answers are going to be. And while you're down there, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because did you know that only 45% of the people who watch this channel are actually subscribed? We can fix that. Just take a moment, hit like, subscribe. It really helps the channel and helps other people discover this type of content as well. Well, recently Bankrate did a survey that asked this same question. What income would it take to feel financially secure? And it turns out that number is about $233,000 a year. And keep in mind that that's just the income to feel secure or comfortable. They also asked what income you would need to feel rich or reach financial freedom. And that number came in at about $483,000 a year. Now, these numbers are quite a ways off from the earnings of a typical U.S. household. In fact, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the average household earnings are about $75,000 a year. Funny enough, I had actually asked my husband a very similar question prior to reading this report. I asked him what would be his ideal income for our household to be earning, and his answer was about $100,000 more than what we're currently making. I wasn't too shocked by his answer because I had thought about it before asking him, and I had come up with something like $75,000 more than we're currently making. So I wholeheartedly get it if you feel like the income you're currently making is lower than you would like it to be. Or if you feel like your income isn't enough to even get you to feel financially comfortable, that can absolutely leave you feeling vulnerable. And the top reasons people cite feeling vulnerable are not having sufficient emergency savings or sufficient retirement savings and low pay. In fact, 57% of people report having less than their desired level of emergency savings, and 55% of people feel behind on their retirement savings. And a bigger income would absolutely help to tackle these issues. So you might be thinking, can I create a plan to boost my income? And the answer is absolutely. First and foremost, consider a side hustle. I have to mention this one right at the top because this one's really the most immediate way to see a boost in your income. Add another job. And I've done this at both extremes. I've done a side hustle, some gig work, but also I've worked 2 full-time jobs at the same time. And it makes for a very hectic schedule. I can't say that I recommend it, but it's not totally unheard of for people who are chasing financial freedom to do. And when it comes to side hustles, I tend to lean more towards those that you can do virtually because you can simply recapture so much of your time by not having to commute to your side hustle. So is there a way you can take your skills and market them online, maybe through sites like Fiverr or Upwork, or perhaps you're a dog lover? The sitter I use for my dog actually has built a legitimate side business. He works from home full time, but he also watches dogs while working from home. He's told me that he makes usually about an additional $40,000 a year just watching people's pets. Or I met a girl who dresses up as a clown for kids' birthdays. She does this only on weekends, so it doesn't interfere with her day job. She said she makes an additional $60,000 a year doing this. When it comes to side hustles, you're really only limited by your imagination. And also keep in mind that your attitude towards a second job or a side hustle is really going to depend on the phase of life you're in. Are you in your phase where you're like, I will hustle, I will do whatever it takes? Or maybe you're at the point where you're like, my time is just more valuable. I don't want to spend every hour of the day working. There's nothing wrong with either of these attitudes. My 20s were my hustle years, for sure. I worked nonstop. Then I got to my 30s, I got a little burnt out from it, and I kind of decided time with my family was more valuable. So your attitude towards this will ebb and flow. But if you don't want to work a side hustle and you don't want to take up a second job, you're going to have to focus on your primary source of income. Look at your industry. Admittedly, when I started out in my field, I didn't do this. When I started out, I had an income of about $50,000, which I thought was amazing at the time. Over the years, it grew to about $80,000. And again, I thought this was absolutely amazing. But then it just sort of stopped growing. And it turns out that was pretty typical pay for my field. And it didn't really grow much after that. I would talk to people who had been in the field for say 20 or 30 years, and they'd all be at that same pay level. It was just kind of where the position maxed out. And each position really does have its own pay potential. And if you're already at the high end of that, you might have to consider switching industries if you want to significantly increase your pay. Keep in mind that your pay is likely tied to your location as well. So would you be willing to move to a different zip code for higher pay? May sound extreme, but it is a realistic option. But then you also have to consider that these higher paying zip codes likely come with a higher cost of living. So ask yourself, would you be comfortable with a longer commute? Or is the pay that much of a difference that it's worth it? Broaden your perspective. Or perhaps you've developed a good skill set in your current field, but maybe that skill set isn't just as highly valued. Can you take this skill set into a different field where it's more highly valued? I have a friend who started out as a personal trainer. She made $25 an hour working at a gym. That's simply what gyms paid their personal trainers. She decided to pivot and she went into corporate wellness. Same skill set, but she was able to land a job that paid $95,000 a year plus benefits. The gym didn't even have benefits. Personally, I went the route of starting my own business. I stayed in my same field, but as a business owner, I have greater income potential than I did as an employee. And I started it on a very small scale. I started it in my off hours and I built up my clientele until I was fully comfortable to step away from my 9-to-5 position. Make yourself indispensable. However, if you've been in your field for quite some time and you feel like your pay raises have just been a little lackluster, you know the stats in your field, you know there's a lot of growth potential, well, it's time to take action. And if you really like the company you're with, set up a time to talk with your supervisor about your income. But don't just go empty-handed. Bring your recent stats. What are some recent projects you've completed? How have you helped your department or otherwise helped the company along? Ask your manager if there's ways that they grew their career that they'd be willing to share with you. Are there more responsibilities you could take on, or are there additional certifications you can get? As many positions offer greater pay increases with certain certifications, as it shows you're a more highly skilled employee. Or perhaps you work for an employer who really doesn't have the ability to go higher with your pay. Maybe you could negotiate in greater benefits, or maybe there just isn't that much wiggle room. Perhaps at that point, you're willing to consider changing employers. On average, it's estimated that workers who change employers earn 10 to 20% more. But you really do have to be careful with this one because you don't want an endless barrage of job hopping. And like I said before, I really like the attitude of making yourself indispensable. Become a go-to resource in your company, because if you increase your value, inevitably you will increase your pay without adding more work time to your schedule. Look at your skill set. It's very likely that you have some skill that you're amazing at that other people would be willing to pay you to do. And I know a lot of times you hear people say, oh gosh, I don't have anything that people would be willing to pay me to do. But that's nonsense. You have some skill that others don't that they would be willing to pay for. Everyone does. You know Marie Kondo, the author of The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up? She built an $8 million empire helping people simply declutter their homes. But she's amazing at it, and she's very passionate about it. What skill set do you have, or what skill set could you have? There are many in-demand fields like graphic designer, editor, content writer, computer programmer that have really great pay potential, and they don't even require a degree. And many of the skills that go with them can be self-taught, or you can find online courses that teach them, and then you can open up an entire new world of career opportunities. I don't know if anybody else watches those CNBC Make It videos, but I love them, and some of their features are absolutely incredible. They had a voiceover artist who was able to build her income to over $15,000 a month, and a content writer who worked her way up to almost $400,000 a year. These are incredible stories about people who took their passions or their side hustles and built them into a phenomenal career. And yes, I'm sure that these individuals are among the very highest paid in their field now, so maybe you won't work your income up to $400,000 a year. But if you work on this area, you certainly could boost your income. The rule of 80-20. Otherwise known as Pareto's Principle. where 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And while the exact percentage may not be 80-20, there are likely certain tasks or certain projects that account for your greatest profits, and other tasks that simply aren't as profitable. Can you find a way to drop those from your plate? Could you hire someone at a lesser wage to take care of those tasks and give yourself the opportunity to focus on the ones with the higher income potential? What was really interesting to me was to see that no matter what a person's income was, they felt they needed more than what they were currently making to feel secure at every single income level. I think this really goes a long way to show how we adapt to our current lifestyle and our current spending at every income level. Yes, we have this attitude of, if I could add just a little bit more, I'd feel better, I'd be more comfortable. But being that this is the attitude at every single income level, it's worth keeping that in mind. We just have this way of moving the goalpost a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I think working to increase your income is great because a bigger income helps you reach your financial goals faster. But just for the sake of your happiness, it's always worth striving to live within your means, no matter what your income. And then as your income grows, well, that's just more icing on the cake. What are your thoughts on your current income level? Are you currently working to grow it? Share your thoughts in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.